नमामि शंकराचार्य गुरुपाद सरोरुहम् यस्य प्रसादान् मूढोऽपि सर्वज्ञोः सदा भवम् कामाक्षी करुणारूपं कामकोटि जगद्गुरुं चिन्मूर्तिं कलये चित्ते शंकराचार्यमव्ययम् भक्ताग्रगिरिसम्भूता शंकरार्णवगामिनी पुनातु भुवनं पुण्या श्रीगुरोश्चरितापथा वेद वेदांत साम्राज्य धर्म कामार्थ मोक्षणम् विद्यारण्यं नमः पुण्यं जो विद्यारण्यमध्यनत् सदाशिव श्री ब्रह्मेन्द्र धृतस्वपद पादुकान् धीरान् परशुवेन्द्रार्यान् ध्यायामि सततं हृदि देवे देहे च देशे च भक्त्यारोग्य सुखप्रदम् उध पावर सेव्यन्तं श्री जयेन्द्रं नमाम्यहम् नमामः शंकरान्माख्य विजयेन्द्र सरस्वतीं श्री गुरुं शिष्टमार्गानुनेतारं सन्मतिप्रदम् सत्यनारायण क्षेत्रात् सत्यव्रतमुपागतम् आश्रये कामकोटीशं सत्यश्री चंद्रशेखरं सदाशिवसमारम्भां शंकराचार्य मध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Our Shri Kanchi Kamakoti Maulamna Sarvagya Pīఠాధిపతి Jagadguru Shri Shankara Vijayam Saraswati Shankaracharya Swami Held performed with his own hands Abhisheka of Ramanatha Swami at Rameshwaram last year, and starting from that auspicious occasion with the prarthana of doing anusandhana of all the original Shankara Vijaya texts, we have started this prayatna of Shri Shankara Bhagavatpāda rādhanā Upanya Mala, in which we are now examining the Anandagiriya Shankara Vijaya, which was composed by one Anandagiri, a direct disciple of Shri Bhagavatpāda. And in this 28th session, we will be examining the 41st prakarana of this Shankara Vijaya. In the earlier prakaranas, the Acharya Anandagiri has described how Bhagavatpāda discussed with the proponents of the Sankhya Mata, and even before that, some very lesser known matas like Loka Mata, Guna Mata, and Varaha Mata. So, Sankhya Darshana, this is something that people who are interested in Bharatiya Darshana would have heard of, even though there are no direct proponents of that Mata today. Basically, it talks about what is called the rādhanā, which is the combined form of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. And the siddhanta is that when these three gunas are in equal state, it is the pralina avastha, pralaya avastha, and when their balance is disturbed, it causes srishti. So Acharya refers to, along with this Sankhya Mata, the other Mata called Yoga Mata. Acharya refers to both of them as Dvaitinohite Sankhyashta Yogashta in his Brahmasutra Bhashya. They are all Dvaitis. The Sankhya Mata also speaks, apart from this Pradhanam, it speaks about many Purushas, Purushas meaning Jivas. And so because of that, it is a Dvaita Mata only. And there is something called Seshwara Sankhya. In basic Sankhya, there is no requirement or concept of an Ishvara. But Yoga Shastra, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras clearly state, Klesha Karma Vipakashayehi Aparavrishta Purusha Vishesha Ishvaraha. So, Ishvara is Chaitanya who is apart from Jivas, and Yoga Shastra talks about that. So, in Yoga Shastra, it gives the Upasana Paddhati which is to be followed for attaining the goal of Chittavritti Nirodha, to ensure that all the thoughts of the mind are totally subsided, totally go away. So the Yoga Shastra gives the path for the internal progress. It does not talk about or care much about the prakriya of the external world. But the Sankhya Shastra, which does not actually talk much about how to do sadhana, it talks about the external world. It gives all these sattva, rajas, tamas, and so on. So these two get along together. These people, Yoga Shastra people, they take that Triguna Siddhanta and so on from the Sankhya Shastra, and so there is a cooperation between these two, and they are often put together. Likewise, here immediately after the 40th Prakarana, Speaking about the Sankhya Mata, we have the Yoga Mata being discussed in the 41st Prakarana. Evam parihridaya Sankhya Mate punaranyah kapila yoga bitil pratyavatishthate. So, here the reference is not to Patanjali Yoga but to Kapila Yoga. Actually, Kapila is, he was an avatar of Bhagavan Mahavishnu only, and it is said in the Srimad Bhagavata how he propounded the Sankhya Siddhanta. So yes, that is there for some purposes. Bhagavan himself has taken an avatar and he has described that Siddhanta. But it is not the Parama Siddhanta. So, but it seems from this reference that there was a Yoga Shastra called Kapila Yoga Shastra also, which does not seem to be available today, which is a complementary to the Sankhya Siddhanta as mentioned earlier, Kapila Sankhya. Satukila Acharya Swaminam Natva Idamuvacha, proponent of that Kapila Yoga, he comes to Acharya, does Namaskara, and he speaks to him, Bho Swamin Madhiyamatam Madhivichitradaram Yogena Muktrite Nigamagama Vachana Darshanat. My mata is very special. There are Nigamas, Shruti Vakyas, and Agamas, other Shastra Vakyas, which say that by yoga one can attain moksha. Tathahi Trirunnatam Sthapya Samam Shariram Ichadi Vivikta Deshecha Sukhasanastha Shuchihi Samagriva Shiras Shariraha Antyashramasthas Sakarendriyani Niruddhya Bhaktya Sugurum Pranamya. So it describes how as it is also said in the Bhagavad Gita, Shuchau Deshe Pratishthapi Sthiramasaram Samankaya Shirogrivam. This body, the neck and the head, they should all be held in a straight fashion. And in an Ekanta Pradesha, one should take up an asana which is comfortable and with Bahya Sharira Suchitva also to be pure after having snana and so on. And as for the internal Shuchitva to control one's senses, all this yoga abhyasa has to be done after taking the blessings of the Guru. Kharut pundarikam virajam vishuddham vichintya madhye vishatam vishokam achintyam abhyaktam anantarupam shivam prashantam amritam brahmayonim. In the lotus of the heart, one should meditate upon the pure form of the Bhagavan, Achintyam, which is beyond normal thought processes, and which is the Parama Mangala Swarupa, which is the Prashanta Swarupa, it is the Amrita Swarupa, and it is the cause of all the whole world, and it is that which is called as Brahmavastu. Anadi Madhyanta Vihinamekam Vibhum Chidarandam Chidaranda Rupam Adbhutam. So that Chidaranda Swarupa, which is devoid of beginning, middle, and end, that Swarupa one should meditate upon. Umasahayam Parameshwaram Prabhum. As far as the Saguna Rupa, it is to be considered as Umasahaya Sameta Bhagavan Shri Parameshwara, who has the three eyes, Trilochanam, Nilakantam, Prashantam, and the dark neck. Jatva Munirgachari Bhuta Jonim Samasta Saksham Tamasaf Parastad. By meditating upon this form of Bhagavan, one can go beyond the darkness of ignorance. And these are Shruti Bhakyas, and there are also the Agama Yoga Shastra Bhakyas, which describe Agamepi Ajama Vidyaya Mooladhara Chakramarabhya Sahasrara Paryanta Shatchakra Stha Devatanam Ganapatyadinam Samyak Upasinena Brahmanadi Vile Jhate Tata Kundalinim Mooladhara Chakrastham Vamapada Parshni Pedita Vayubalat Pranapana Vayu Vaikyam Urupadeshat Kritva Tadeshat Samathapya Pratichakrabheder Sahasraram Brapayitva Tan Mooladhare Panasthapayitva Brahmananda Sukhamukha Mukta Purushaha Mukto Bhavishyati Ataha Yujam Muktikamshanaha Yogamāshrayam. So what is said in that Japa Vidya, this is something that is to be practiced by the with the guidance of a guru, and it describes how one should meditate upon various devatas, starting from Ganapati in the Mooladhara, and the Mooladhara is the chakra, the Shakti chakra, which is present at the base of the spine of the backbone. And we have the Mooladhara, Manipuraka, Swadhisthana, Manipuraka, Anahata, Vishuddhi, Agya, and Sahasrara at the topmost crown of the head. So there are various devatas starting from Ganapati at the Mooladhara Chakra who are to be meditated upon. And by this meditation, one will come to know where is the path of that Brahma, what is called the Brahma Nadi or the Sushumna Nadi, through which then the Kundalini Shakti has to be taken up. This Kundali refers to a snake, and it is the metaphorical reference because the Shakti, she is said to reside there at the Mooladhara in a coiled up form. And one has to wake her up by doing the pranayama abhyasa and should take her up through all these chakras up to the Sahasrara chakra and then bring her back to the Mooladhara and keep that back. And by this one will attain Brahmananda Sukha. And this is the path to moksha. And this is what he says. He recommends to Acharya that Acharya should also take up this if he wants moksha. तत्र आचार्य पठति कापिला भवन्मतम अनर्हम कुतः प्रमाणाभावात् प्रमाणं विविक्तदेशम इत्यादि उदितमेव इति यद्युच्यते तथा न वक्तव्यम्. Says, O Kapila, your mata is unacceptable. How come? There is no pramana. Arey, just now I have given the pramana vivikta desha and so many vakyas. How come they are Shruti vakyas? How can you reject them? Okay, I am not rejecting Shruti vakyas, but they do not indicate that the yoga that you describe is moksha sadhana. That is the point. Hridadi bhakyehi dahara vidyaiva pratibhadita na yogaha. Ajapadi vidya, ajapa vidyayaha agamoktattva balat. Saiva yoga iti yadi uchcheda tarapena sambhavati. So, all these vakyas, the hridaya and so on, the other vakyas which are mentioned earlier, they all come to describe the dahara vidya. So, dahara vidya means meditation. The heart is itself a very small place in our body, and inside that a great Tejas and Agni Jwala is said to reside, and inside in a small place, and inside that small place, Paramatma is there. So this is the kind of meditation which is given in Dahara Vidya, and this is the Vidya with this Upasana which is described by the earlier quoted mantras, not the yoga that you describe. Ajapa Vidyayaha Agamoktattva Balat Saiva Yogaha. So let us say, is it possible to consider that the Ajapa Vidya which was mentioned earlier, that is given in Shastras? Yes. So why not consider it as yoga? So then Acharya says, Ajapa Moola Mantrasya Hamsarupattveda Sohamityarthe Nirdharite Pardivayoho Vidagandha Lesha Bhavat Katham Yoga iti Bhaktum Shakyate. See, the concept of yoga is to connect Jiva with Ishvara. So two things exist, continue to exist. That is why, as mentioned earlier, Dvaitino Hite Sankhyaschta Yogaschta. So that Advaita, the Abheda, is not described in the Yoga Shastra. So but the import of that Ajapa mantra is to realize that the Paramatma and this Jiva is actually one. So there is absolutely no, not even the mildest hint of a difference between the Paramatma and the Jivatma. This as per the Ajapa mantra also. Then how can you say that this Ajapa mantra is the yoga that you describe? It is only to go and connect this Jiva to Paramatma in some way, not to totally merge that Jiva with Paramatma. Mantra Vashad Yogasya Apraptavapi Kundalinya Shakta Veda Matram Yoga iti yadi uchcheta. So okay, so you do not accept that this mantra can give this is pramana for this yoga, but that Kundalini, by taking that Kundalini to the Sahasrara and so on, that is yoga, isn't it? Tadapina samanjasam muktimargatva bhava. So that cannot be considered as a moksha sadhana. Sarvabhutastam atmanam sarvabhutani chatmani sampashyan brahma paramam yati na anyena hetuna. So only if we meditate, we realize, not just meditate, realize that this Atma Swarupa, the self, is present in all the bhutas that appear in this world, and all the bhutas that appear in this world are actually present in the self only, are adhyastha, shine, or have the self, the Atma only as the substratum. Only when we realize this, one can attain the Parama Purushartha na anyena hetuna. There is no other, absolutely no other way to attain that goal. Iti anyaparasya nishedhat. किंचन ज्ञानाधिकार परामर्शोपि शांतोदांतो उपरतस्थितिक्षु समाहित श्रद्धा वित्तो भूत्वा आत्मन्येव आत्मानम् अनुपश्येत् इति प्रतिपादितः अनुशब्देन ब्रह्म विषयक वेदांत शास्त्र अंगीकार मात्रं योज्यते. So the jnana adhikara which is described there, one should control the external senses and so on. Here, that anushabda, it only indicates that this is the path to have the actual realization, to have the anudarshana, santata darshana of that Atma Swarupa. All these Shanti, Danti, and so on have to be practiced. And they give the Chitta Shuddhi, which give the realization. That is what is said also in the other Shruti, Vedanta Vijnana Surishchitarthaha is a very, very well known Shruti Sannyasa Yogat Yataya Shuddha Sattvaha. Te Brahmalokeshu Parantagale Paramritat Parimachyati Sarve. So, those who realize the Vedanta Tattvartha, which show that Jivatma and Paramatma are one, only they will attain that Brahmaloka and they will attain the Paramapurushartha. Ataha yogasya sarvada nirvakashatvat apramanye prapte purah kapilaha swaminam idamuvacha. So there is absolutely no nirvakashatvat means it has its own role. It has its role to give Chitta Shuddhi that was mentioned earlier. That is fine. But it is not ever anywhere given in the Shrutis to be a path to directly attain moksha. So when Acharya points out this, that Kapila again once more speaks to Acharya. He says, "Boh paramayati varya yogo na mukti karanamiti bhavatavtam satyam mukti swarupa anabhigyastum evan jalpasi." So you say, "Oh, Swamin, that yoga cannot be mukti karana." I believe truly that you are not aware of the real form of the nature of moksha. Because of all these vachanas, he quotes lots of vachanas. Agyatva khechari mudran brahmagyoham iti dvijaha yovade. So, tasya jiva. So, whoever claims that he is a brahmagyari without knowing the khechari mudra. See, these are all various practices of yoga which are to be known by the Guru Upadesha only. And these are vakyas which say that all these practices, yoga practices, are essential for attaining Brahmajnana. Nadi Tritaya Sanjogam Trikutakhyam Apiddujaha Brahmahamiti Yo Brute, without knowing that the confluence of the three rivers called Trikuta. See, these are metaphorical symbolisms for some concepts which are to be learnt in yoga. So that also is important for without which one cannot claim that one is a Brahmajnani. Abhiditva dujo yastu Shringatakamatah param. So beyond that, the confluence of the rivers, there is a Shringataka. Shringataka is actually a roundabout where four roads meet. And without knowing that, one cannot claim that one is a Brahmajnani. Manonmanya Swarupam Vibhunda Purna Mandala Margataha Abhiditva Bravid Brahma. Without knowing that Manonmani, the form of that Shakti, which is beyond the mind, to attain that, without attaining that Shakti through the Purna Mandala Marga, it is not possible to say that one knows Brahma. And Angushthamatrasya Pusaha Sthanajnanam Viradvijaha, as mentioned earlier, that Paramatma who is present of the size of a thumb in the heart, in the body, without knowing, without realizing that, one cannot claim that one is a Brahmajnani. Avasthat Tritayadi Tritayasthanam Nijonnata Vigarhitam Ajnatva Brahmajo Brute, that Avasthat Tritaya. So this can be interpreted in multiple ways, that without the unevenness of the body, the yoga abhyasa, and without all such practices, one cannot attain Brahmajnana. Ityadi aneka gopya lakshasthana vyaptam Brahma Swarupam Yoga Shastram Viragyatam Ashakyam. So all these secret practices are required. Without knowing them from Yoga Shastra, one cannot know Brahma Swarupa. And Laya Yoga Tat Prapanchasya Athiva Darshana. There is a great form of yoga called Laya Yoga, and in which all these practices are described in immense detail. And Laya Yoga is actually something that one of our earlier Kamakoti Acharyas also have practiced. Pranayan Laya Yoga Makshudancham Punar Acharya Mathe Nipadya Kanchya. So that is definitely, it is a great practice. Lajavit paramam brahma yati nangena vartmana iti yoga prasya nishedha darshanat yoga avashyam angikartavyaha hatavit paramam brahma yati brahmasara paramam sthanam yati brahmasara iti hatayoga prapanchasya shreshthatvam atah sarvada atyanta yatnena mokshakankshibhi yoga eva angikartavyaha iti. So one who knows that Laya yoga, one who knows the Hatha yoga, uh, only he will attain Brahmavastu, not through any other path. Such Nishedha Vakyas are there, so we have to accept yoga. And whoever wants to attain yoga, moksha, they have to practice yoga. Evam prapte bhagavad-viravachate kim kapila vrata jalpasi प्राणायाम प्रत्याहारादि अष्टांग योगैः न मुक्ति मार्ग गंधा संभवति किंतु देहायास मात्रमेव फलम. This may seem to be an extreme statement by Acharya, but elsewhere also Acharya has said, see, if you do just the physical pranayama without trying to go towards the realization, it is just grana pidana. You are just pressing your nose. So Acharya has actually made fun of it. Doing all this pranayama, pratyahara, and all the Ashtanga yoga practices uh, alone without trying to attain jhana, one cannot attain even the least hint of moksha marga. So you said that Kecharya mudra vijnanam vina moksho nasti iti bhavaduktam tad atyantam andataram परिपूर्णस्य ब्रह्मणः सम्यज्ञानं केवलम् अभ्यसनीयम् सादृग्विधज्ञानस्य चित्तशुद्धिमूलत्वात् तस्याः सत्कर्माश्रितत्वात् वेदोक्तसत्कर्मैव सम्यक् अनुष्ठितं चित्तशुद्ध्यादि फलं जनयति. So that, see, what is really important is the knowledge of that akhanda paripurna brahma vastu, and that jnana, that anubhava, that realization can only be attained through chitta shuddhi, and that chitta shuddhi can be attained only through the satkarmanusthana. And so it is important that we should do the vedokta satkarmanusthana, and even without all these practices separately, that karmanusthana will give the chitta shuddhi phala. And through that, tera nityanitya vastu viveke ihamutrartha phalabhoga virage shamadamadi sampattau shitoshna sahane mumukshitve jate mukti siddheva sadhana sampadnasya shravanadina. So through this chitta shuddhi, one attains the nityanitya vastu viveka, the realization, the discernment between what is nitya, what is permanent, and what is impermanent. Ihamutrartha phalabhoga viraga, the detachment from all the fruits of which are to be experienced in this world or the next world. Shamadama, the sampatti, the control of the external senses, the control of the mind, and so on. Shitoshna Dvandva Sahane, the practice of uh, being retaining equanimity despite Shitoshna Sukha-dukkeshu, Tatha Manapamanayo, whether it be cold or hot or Sukha or Dukkha or so on, to retain one's equanimity and to have the Tivra, this is also included in that Samadhi Shakka Sampatti, and to have that Mumukshapva, the deep desire to attain moksha. One who has the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, one can attain moksha through Sravana, Marana, and Nididhyasana. So, which are explained in the Shrutis. So, the Shruti is the Pramana for all these things. This is the path that the Shruti shows. Sravanam Nama Guru Mukhat Mahavakyopadeshaha. So, the Upadesha of the Mahavakyas, the learning of the Mahavakyas from one's Guru's mouth, that is called Shravana. So, there are lots of Mahavakyas. There is a Mahavakya from the Rigveda Itaropanishad which says that Brahmavastu is of the nature of consciousness, and the Samveda Chandogyopanishad advises the Shishya that Brahmavastu you are, and to which the Shishya does Anusandhana as is given in the Mandukya of the Atharva Veda, that this soul is nothing other than that Brahmavastu. And also to realize that whatever this external world seems to appear, this is not really true. All these things, this is there in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad of the Shukla Yajurveda, and the final realization that I am that Brahmavastu, which is also there in that Brihadaranyaka. So lots of Mahavakyas are there, and there is the Taittiriya Mahavakya of the Krishna Yajurveda which says that Satyam Jnanam The Paravastu is of the nature of truth, it is of the nature of consciousness, and it is of the nature of limitlessness, Ananta. So all these Mahavakyas have to be learnt and understood. Shishya, and how are they going to be understood? After that Shramana, Shishyasya Shravana Siddho Jatayam, Tad Vakyartha Vichara Rupam Maranamiti, Vakyartha Nishtam Shisrupa Dhyanameva Nididhyasanamiti Uchati. So to ruminate, to meditate upon, to think about the meanings. Actually, there are many Mahavakyas, but their final meaning is just that one, that Jiva and Ishvara are not different. That is the final meaning of all, the single meaning of all the Mahavakyas. So this has to be meditated upon in many ways, and whatever that tattva is being taught by these Vakyas, that has to be meditated upon in one's heart, and one should attempt to realize that. That effort is called nididhyasana. Tadanu sarvatmakam brahma sakshatkare eva mokshayate narabatyam. So through this nusandhana, one will realize that Sarva, Brahma Vastu is Sarvatmaka, is present everywhere, including within us, outside, whatever is perceived as inside or outside, everything is that Brahma Vastu. And there is also the Shastra which shows that how Mahadeva, Bhagavan, Parmeshwara gave Upadesha to Shuka, Kritamanitya Tatupadesha Prakaropi. So that Upadesha is also of the nature of all these Mahavakyas, and through that Upadesha only, Shuka attained that Sarvatmakam Brahma Sakshatkara. This is what is given in that Purana Grantha, which is called a Rahasya Veda. And Katha Prashna, the Kathopanishad also says, Ashcharyo, the person who is capable of speaking, of teaching this Paramatma Tattva is very rare. The person who is capable of receiving, listening and understanding this Paramatma Tattva is very rare. And when one capable person gives and another person receives and actually attains that realization, that is very, very rare. And this is, it is not possible for this Paramatma Tattva to be realized from the Upadesha of an ordinary person. So, but from a person who is always immersed in that Supreme Being, only when such a person gives that Upadesha, this Tattva can be realized, because it is smaller than an atom. It is aniyas compared to even an anu. Iti Guru Shishyabhyam Prayatradhyatavyaस्य Sarvatmakasya Brahmana Swarupam Kena Vetum Shakyamityukte Tatraivoktam Manasai Vedamattavyam. So, how is it possible to realize this? When that prashna, that question comes, it is said there itself that this mind is the sadhana. This mind is what has to be totally focused upon that Paramatma Tattva. Only then all these things will be actually achieved. Evakarena mano vitrikta sadhanantara abhavaha uchyate. So it is this mind, there is nothing else that is capable of giving this. There is no other way to receive this jnana. This mind that has to be focused on the Paramatma Tattva. Ataha Shuddhamano Vedyam Brahma iti prapte. So then one might object whether this actually, the mind is directly capable of realizing that Brahma Vastu. No. So the Upanishad says that the mind and all speeches, they all come, return away, come from that Paramatma Tattva. They are not capable of showing that Paramatma Tattva. तथापि एतद्दूषणम् अपक्वमनसो ज्ञातव्यम् पक्वमनसस्तावत् कारणशरीरस्य मनोन्मन्यवस्था यदा प्राप्यते तदा सतसदात्मके अंगुष्ठमात्रपुरुषे. So whoever has not yet realized, attained that paripakvata, that level of maturity, spiritual maturity, only they will have a misunderstanding like this. But actually, when a person has attained that sufficient spiritual maturity, they will realize that this manas, which is itself the karana sharira, when it goes to the avastha called manonmani, the state called manonmani, which is beyond this manas, tada sadasadatmake angushtamatra purushe. So that angushtamatra purusha, which was meditated upon, jalamalinyam katakarena viva leenam mano bhavati tasyeva jnana rupatvam. So that mind will dissolve into the Jnana Swarupa, and within that mind, actually, that Jnana Swarupa, the Chaitanya is there, but due to all sorts of impurities, it does not shine through. And when by putting the that particular the churna, the dust of that particular nut, just like that, all impurities are settled down. Just like that, like and the internal vastu shines forth. Just like that, this Atma Tattva will shine through the mind. इच्छाकल्पित परिच्छिन्न रूप अंगुष्ठमात्र परमात्मनि मनोलये जाते मनःकल्पित सर्व प्रपंचोपशमान मुक्तिरिति दिक्. So even though this angushta pramana, it is just for meditation, but it is based upon the Shruti pramana only. So just like it is said in the Taittiriya Upanishad Bhashya, Shastrokta Alambana Vishaya Upasana. Upasana should have basis in Shastra, and through meditating upon the Sangushtamatra Paramatma, one's mind will attain Laya, and through that, this entire world, which is just an imagination of the mind, that will also attain Laya. So, Chaturvimshati Tattvatmaka Sthula Sharirasya Sukshme Saptadashatmake Layam Kritva Tadapi Karane Manomatre Laya Prayatnam Tasyapi. It should be like that. Karane Manomatre Laya Prayatnam Gurvataha Shuddha Manasopi Parabrahmani Jalayantikirushoho Purushasya Jivanmuktasya Dagdhapatannyayena Prapanchantah Patinaha Kimu Sankhya Yogabhyam Prayojanam Vidyate. So he says that all those tattvas, various tattvas which are given in the Sankhya Siddhanta, those tattvas are they are all part of, they all together, they comprise, they make up this sthula sharira, and one should realize that one should meditate, or should realize that the sthula sharira is actually coming from the sukshma sharira, which has 17 such tattvas in it, and that sthula sharira, sukshma sharira also has to subside within the karana sharira, which is just the pure mind alone. And that karana sharira, that mind, when it becomes much pure, it has to attain laya in the parabrahma vastu. And when it does that, then the Purusha becomes a Jivan Mukta, and even that Jivan Mukta is talking, walking among us. But how come? Because Dagdha Patanyayana, see, then when a cloth is burnt, and at least some parts of that cloth will still retain that shape for a short while until a gust of wind comes and disturbs it or something like that. But that shape is there. So that vastu is not there, but the shape alone is there. Likewise, this Jivan Mukta, he is not really part of the physical world any longer, but he appears to be. And when he has attained that state, what is the use of this Sankhya or Yoga? Brahmaswarupa Anavigyasya Sadguru Sadupadesha Leshad Viduragatasya Partyasya Mooladharadi Chakrihi Raktam Hamsabayi Kim Muktirasti. So one who does not realize that Brahmaswarupa, even he is not capable, he does not have the bhagya to get the sadupalesha, lesha of Sadguru. See, Sadguru is the guru who gives upadesha of the Sadvastu. Actually, all gurus are to do, a proper guru should do upadesha of Sadvastu only, but it is just to clarify that it is called, he is called Sadguru, and Sadupadesha, a very, even the smallest amount of Sadupadesha from that guru is not capable of being obtained. This person is not capable to obtain that, even that. And so such a person, what is he going to do with all these Mooladhara and Chakras and so on, which are all parts of the Rakta Mamsa Maya body? So Tasmat Modhabuddhim Parityaja Nirastha Yoga Trashnaha Shuddha Advaita Vidyama Shritya Sarva Paripurnam Brahma Satchidananda Lakshanam Gyatva Mukto Bhava. So please divest yourself of all these false thoughts and leave the thought that you should always keep doing yoga only, and through that you can attain moksha. And you should realize this Shuddha Advaita Vidya, and through that Sarva Paripurnam Brahma, you will understand the Paripurna Brahma Vastu, which is of the nature of Satchidananda. Ityukta Kapilaha Paramaguru Charanaravinda Dundasakta Shiraha Tadupadesha Shuddha Advaita Vidya Shrivaha Shishya Shrestha Bhavati. By this Upadesha of Shri Bhagavatpāda, that Kapila, he developed bhakti towards the lotus feet of the Gurunatha, and through that the Upadesha of that Guru, the Shishya became Shuddha Advaita Vidya Shrataha. He entirely became devoted to Advaita Vidya, and he became a greatest of the Shishyas. Anandagiri Prakaranam Yegachatvaramsham. So thus ends the 41st Prakarana of this Anandagiriya Shankara Vijaya, describing the Yogamata discussion of Shri Bhagavatpāda. And we will, by the Guru Kripa, we will do Anusandhana of the upcoming Prakarnas also in an upcoming session. Sarvabhyapaka Chaitanya Rupena Adhyapi Tishtati Sayeva Shankaracharyo Gurur Mukti Pradasthata. Hara Hara Shankara, Jai Jai Shankara.